This video is on the PM 728 VT milling machine by Precision Matthews, and I'm very happy with this machine. I've had it for 3 years now, and I use it almost on a daily basis because I'm retired and I'm a model maker, build model engines, and so I don't do any rough work on it, but I do a lot of work, and it's done everything I've asked it to, and it's been easy to set up, and I'm really enjoy having it. This milling machine is my third milling machine, and the complaint I had most of the time with my other milling machines was not enough head height. This machine has 16 or probably 17 inches if you overextend it a little bit in head height, and I've rigged this up with an electric thing to raise it up so it works. There's variable speed. You can slow it way down. And the reason I did this is because I do a lot of boring, especially in like a crankcase of an engine or something. I might have to bore a hole in the side. It's very hard to set up in the lathe to bore that. It's much easier to put it on the table here and bore down through it. And this thing is very good for boring. As you can see, it's going probably 0.10 of an inch per second, and I can adjust that. So I can speed it up some. I usually run 20 thousandths per second, and it works pretty good, depending on the size of the hole. It is a square column milling machine. I don't like the round column ones because in the first place you couldn't do the boring at all in a round column because you can't slide that up and down when the machine's running. It has to be loosened up. But this one works very good. And if you use the spindle to bore, you're going to get a taper, because what happens is you extend the spindle out, it can bend a little bit, and it'll give you a taper in the bore. That's okay if you're doing, you know, a 1/4 inch bore or a 1/2 inch bore or something. But if you're going 2 or 3 inches, it can amount to a couple of thousandths of an inch. So I did that on my previous milling machine. Was a Boyer Schultz Lindley, and it was a jig borer. And the only way you could bore was it had a power feed on it, and it would bore down, and the spindle would extend, I think, 3 inches. But in that 3 inches, it would move enough so that I would have probably a 1 or 1.5 thousandths taper in the bore, and that just didn't work out for me. I opted for their digital readout because they said it was made for this machine. I love it. I never had one before, and it's just a great piece of equipment. The second thing I did, of course, you saw me raise the head here electrically. I added that. That's a stepper motor up here. And over here on the left-hand side, you'll see all that electronics is to run that stepper motor. And the controller is this. Now I put that on there with magnets because once in a while, I want to move this down here so I can either sit down and work or just have it close by. This stepper motor is hooked to the lead screw that goes down through that raises and lowers it. And at first I tried to buy the gear so it would mesh in with the gear, and it was like $100 and some by the time I got the shipping, and they said it would take 2 months to get one. So then I started thinking, well, there's a nut on top of that screw, and I wanted to drive the nut. And I eventually figured out that if you're going down, it's unscrewing the nut. If you're going up, it's screwing the nut, tightening the nut, and that's when the torque was on it. So it won't unscrew the nut, and if it's tight. So I just took a socket and I silver brazed the socket onto a shaft and made the shaft fit on the shaft of the motor, and it just sits on there. And it's very easy. And it's just a plate and a shaft, and that's all it was to mount that. Works out very good. The machine comes with a one-shot oiler, which is extremely handy. You just pull it back and the oil's at that point, and it squirts oil in all the cross slides. It does not oil the lead screw, the 2 lead screws, but you can shoot some oil up in there and do those. You could could fix it so it did, but I haven't found a need for that. This lead screw has ball bearings in it, and I think this one does too, so they turn very easily. A nice feature. And the table is plenty big, as you can see, for a small milling machine. I'm extremely happy with this. This was made in Taiwan. I didn't find anything wrong with it. When I checked it out with the dial indicator, everything was almost perfect, except the head had a couple of thousandths twist, because it is adjustable. So I had to adjust that, and I've had it 3 years now, and I haven't touched that adjustment. I'm never going to take it off of that. I have no reason to turn the head. It also comes with a digital readout on the spindle, which is handy for drilling holes to a certain depth. I like that because I don't use it a lot for drilling because I have the same setup on my drill press, and it's easy to set the drill press up. But when I want something really precision and really centered, I use the digital readout, and I center it and I drill a hole in the milling. The addition I've done to this is stops. I've got the stops for the x-axis, and you have to make those, and it's a simple block, and I just use a standard nut behind it. It fits in the slot perfectly, and a piece of 5/16 rod, and those work good there. But I also like to have is a y-axis, and I made this up, and it works, but it's not quite stiff enough. What it does is it bolts between the two mounting bolts underneath here. This 1 and 2, and it hits against the cross slide here. And the problem with this is it's only 5/16 and it bends a little. So I'm going to go to 1/2 inch and remake the whole thing. And this just slides up, and I tighten that bolt, and then I can do my adjustment. So that gives me X and Y stops. Another thing that I had to do was I had to change this piece because it was way in there, and it was very hard to get your hands in there, and actually, so I extended it to clear the y-axis stops. And I found out it's a lot easier to use now because I can get my hand on it. It's something that I'd probably do if I knew how much easier it was right up front, is extend that out a little bit. Well, thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed the videos. Please click the like button and subscribe to my channel, and we'll be putting more on later. Thank you very much.